is that all of these guys that got boosted tremendously, they went on there in front of, not they, but they've all done it in on their own shows, tweeting it out. And the Douglas Murray did it on his show, in his face, challenging the very core of what made Joe Rogan so successful. That I'm going to talk to whoever the fuck I want about whatever the fuck I want. And if you have a problem with that, eat shit, Douglas Murray. It's just a tie into the last episode. That's what made it so compelling. That this guy, that all of these former lefty, I don't know, I don't think Douglas Murray's a former lefty, but many of them are. But these dissidents that push back against woke culture, which he certainly did, are now arguing in favor of deplatforming. That you shouldn't have on these schmucks like Dave Smith that just devoured me in this debate. How dare you? The hypocrisy is astonishing. And the core of the debate is America First actually the heart and soul of the modern right wing, or isn't it? And that debate matters a lot. If you're viewing that debate on its merit, the core of the right is America First for real. And that is why they are trying desperately to damage Joe Rogan, deplatform Dave Smith, and do everything, every censorious hate speech law, everything you can do, because you're losing. Now, let me give you some friendly advice. You're not going to win by passing hate speech laws. You're not going to win by getting on the largest show on earth and then lecturing the guy that helped your career to not do what made him the biggest show on earth, you absolute imbecile. That's not the way forward. And you're not going to win that debate because his entire audience loves him because he has on people that we don't always agree with. And by the way, it's a massive insult to his audience to get on there and say, you can't have on someone like Dave Smith. Your audience is too stupid to recognize when he's lying. As if when he has on Gad Saad or Jordan Peterson or Douglas Murray or Kissen or Lindsay, that, oh, but then we're smart enough to distill whether or not you're telling us the truth? No, what you're saying is that we're always too dumb to think for ourselves. That if you have on someone that you support, that it's okay because we're just idiots and we're just going to take in whatever you say and then parrot it back out. Here's the truth. I've heard all of your arguments and I've sided with Dave. And you know why? Because after a long bout of thinking about it with my little tiny man brain, I came to the conclusion that he's telling the truth and you're lying motherfuckers. I know. And I only have a bachelor's degree, but so do you, Dougie. So our opinions are equal in your stupid credentialed worldview. So I think that's why that debate caught fire. And I think that's why they are trying to damage and ultimately destroy Joe Rogan. If you remember, after Kamala lost the election, the Democrats just totally spiraled out of control. And they were like, we have to find our Democratic Joe Rogan. Here's the truth. Joe Rogan was a Democrat for a very long time. You guys lost him because you lost your fucking minds. Well, now you have a Joe Rogan on the right, but the pro-Israel camp within the right can't stand the fact that Joe has on guests that sometimes don't agree with them. So now they're doing the same thing. And now you're going to push Joe Rogan away, and he's going to end up firmly in the libertarian non-interventionist camp. So thank you for not learning any lessons from the woke, which you fought against tirelessly for a decade, and now implementing the same counterproductive tactics which destroyed their entire movement and will ultimately destroy you. Why am I even telling you this? You don't deserve it. But I know none of you will take me seriously because I'm just a little tiny guy podcaster and I don't have a brain. So who gives a shit what I have to say? Just laugh it off. Don't take me seriously. Doesn't bother me. I'd rather you not. Stay the course. But for those that aren't in that stupid camp, I hope this helps clarify what we're witnessing. That this is a much bigger fight. This is not Douglas Murray versus Dave Smith. This is the heart and soul of what the right wing will mean moving forward. Will it be non-interventionist or will it be repackaged garbage neoconservatism? That's up for you to decide, and I hope you'll make the right call.
This is the first time we featured Clint Russell on Aftershow Carnage, and honestly, it's long overdue. He's one of the most grounded, principled voices in the liberty movement, an actual adult in the room, a former libertarian vice presidential candidate, now a reluctant Trump endorser, a Mises Caucus guy with spine. He runs Liberty Lockdown. He has receipts. And when he finally snapped on air this week, defending Joe Rogan from the condescending chorus of polite censors, it wasn't just a defense of free speech. It was a shot across the bow at every fake dissident and coward with a blue check. I'm going to talk to whoever the fuck I want about whatever the fuck I want. That line didn't come from a teenager trying to look edgy. It came from a man who's watched the so-called intellectual right roll over, wag their tails, and beg to be let into the polite society of regime respectability. And for what? So they can keep getting invited to panels where no one ever says anything real? Clint's right about the censorship. He's right about the hypocrisy. He's right about the audience insult. What made Rogan powerful was his refusal to follow the script. And now we've got clowns in tailored suits telling him to cut it out. Let's make this clear. Clint Russell just did what Douglas Murray, MartyrMade, Ian Carroll, Andrew Tate, Russell Brand, and Tim Pool all won't. He said, back off, let people speak, let the audience decide. But here's where I diverge, because while Clint is busy defending Rogan's legacy, I've watched that legacy hollow itself out from the inside. Joe Rogan isn't the flag bearer of dissent anymore. He's the velvet rope. He's the velvet muzzle. He platformed a few truth tellers and then quietly made sure the gate stage shut behind them. Let's talk about that Dave Smith versus Douglas Murray debate for a second. That wasn't a battle for the soul of the right. That was a cringe audition for who gets to be the most agreeable, not too anti-Semitic dissident on the podcast circuit. The first 45 minutes were just two guys stumbling over themselves to condemn the bad kind of right-wingers, the ones who actually make regime agents uncomfortable. It was a purity pageant. You want to know how I know? Because right after the debate, Daryl Cooper, MartyrMade himself, dropped a little essay about how he's one of the good guys, too. What a coincidence. The whole thing reeked of choreography. Meanwhile, real dissenters like Nick Fuentes can't get invited to speak on anything bigger than a Telegram group because people like Dave and Douglas have decided that he's the line. Not because of his ideas, those are sharp and well-known, but because he refuses to pretend. Because he says the quiet parts. And that's unforgivable. Dave Smith once praised Nick Fuentes. That's not a rumor. That's not a fringe internet myth. That happened. And it happened on air. I remember it because it was the first time I even considered listening to Nick. That clip changed minds. That's power. And now, Dave won't touch Nick. He'll debate British puppets with war fetishes, but he won't revisit the one matchup that might actually shift the Overton window. That's not fear, that's coordination, that's gatekeeping. Same thing when Candace Owens held that Twitter space on Nick's birthday, stacked with Zionist operatives and regime lapdogs. Dave was in there. Nick offered to join. Crickets! I'm supposed to believe that was an accident? The real test isn't whether you can make a room laugh. Dave's great at that. It's whether you can speak truth even when the topic has a yarmulke on it. That's where every single one of these fake dissidents folds. Dave condemns anti-Semitism from the right, loudly. That's what keeps him safe. That's what gets him on Rogan. That's what keeps the ad revenue flowing. And yet, he let Douglas Murray slander Jake Shields as some unhinged extremist and didn't say a word. Didn't push back. But he defended MartyrMade, the same guy who does the please don't cancel me dance every time the topic gets close to the hat. Come on, man. This isn't about hate, it's about reality. If you can't tell the truth about who holds the cultural whip in this country, then don't pretend to be a truth teller. The real matchup wasn't Dave versus Douglas, it's Dave versus Nick. But that can't happen anymore. Because Dave might be forced to agree with something that gets him deplatformed. Everyone's suddenly allergic to risk. Even the people who built their whole brand on risk. This is why Clint Russell's rage matters. Because even if he doesn't see the full board yet, he feels what's coming. He smells the rot. He sees that the war isn't left versus right anymore. It's gatekeeper versus the people. It's fake rebels versus the guys they're trying to erase. And that brings us back to Rogan. Joe's platform gave birth to 1 million new voices, but now it's being used as a firewall. to keep out the ones who won't play the game. The real dissidents don't get the Spotify bump. They get banned. They get smeared. They get forgotten. So yes, Clint, keep yelling. Keep breaking ranks. But understand this. The war isn't just against free speech. It's against truth itself. And that war is being fought by people on both sides of the aisle and plenty inside your own house. Rogan's audience isn't stupid. They know who's not being invited back. They know who's missing. And maybe, just maybe, they're starting to realize who's afraid to say why.